Dev. You scared me too much last year. I was like prepared and I'm already spooked.
He's already worried about things are going to jump out. Hey, Savanna. And if you don't know, that is Savanna under there in the Spider-Man mask. Happy Halloween, everybody. I am dressed as Wanda processing into the Scarlet Witch. Obviously, we have Spider-Man. Which Spider-Man? Savannah, are you Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland? Any preference?
I think I'm Tobey Maguire if I have a choice. Yeah,
Nice.
the OG, where I first discovered Spider-Man back in the day.
Love it. And the headset makes it like you're different from the
Yeah,
Spider-Verse. You're just like
this
Gamer
is
Spider.
yeah, actually maybe I'm like 2024 Spider-Man. He used to work at the newspaper, but we've moved on, so now he works in tech, just enough.
We don't have
a little angle.
Yeah, we don't have RTO in that Spider-Man. Got a couple people chatting. Happy Halloween. Of course, they're in the house. This is the real Spider-Man for sure. And another hi. Welcome, everyone. So we're going to be doing a very fun, obviously, Silly Gets Halloween episode, but we have an awesome roster of guests. We have, I think, 5 or 6 people coming on with us, which is really cool, to talk about assembling the best FinOps team. But before we do that, let's get into it. So welcome, everyone, to the Keys to AWS Optimization, the show where we share stories, concepts, and solutions to help you unlock your spend at AWS. My name is Steph Gooch, and I'm a Senior Optimization Architect Advocate, also the Scarlet Witch, just in case you didn't know. And I'm here to help you with all your FinOps questions. Savanna?
My name is Savanna Jensen. When I'm not being Spider-Man, I am a Senior FinOps Success Manager here on the Optics team.
Yes. So we want to be hearing questions, comments from you guys today, especially about Halloween, but also about our topic, which is assembling the best FinOps team. So the point of view for this video is you're a FinOps person watching this video, and you have to work with so many different people in your organization. You have to work with finance, managers, execs, tech people, and you want to make sure that you have the best conversations with them. So what we have done is assembled, pun intended, the roster of these people to give you some perspective, some ideas of things that they care about, and how to best work with them. This awesome assembly is people from Optics. Some of them you've met before on the show, some are new. So make sure you give them all a warm welcome. What's this one? Spider-Man and Elf. That's the costume. Okay. And we all love Spider-Man. Everyone loves Spider-Man. Awesome showing. But Savanna, before we get into it and bring on any of our amazing guests, I wanted to hear from you when you're working with customers. Who are the people that you often work with or wish you could work more with when it comes to these kind of conversations on FinOps?
Yeah, so I would say it's pretty common for us on the optics side to work directly with the FinOps practitioners. So most of the folks viewing right now are likely in that pool of folks that we've worked with, or in like a very similar role. But I would say some of the more kind of successful and maybe like fiery engagements that we get, and fiery in a good way, like fun, are when we work directly with product teams or dev teams on the customer side. So fin hacks, any sort of engagement where we're interacting and kind of partnering with the FinOps team to help the folks who are hands-on keyboard every day actually make those changes, because you get to teach a little bit, you get to learn a little bit, and it's also just really fun to see those results because they can physically go in and make changes, and that's awesome.
Yeah, I love hearing the variety of people. Like you said, we always sort of FinOps. I also love speaking to execs, people that are like, I am going to commit to this. We're going to drive that change. Had some really good engagements last year where we had that. And it was just really supportive to have them be like, let's follow up. Let's keep doing this. Did you hear that? Boo!
I was ready this time. You're not going to get me.
Oh, God. I was going to cut you out. But I want to know in the chat for everybody, who is dressing up for Halloween this year? Yes or no? Did you already dress up? Some people have, some people haven't. 1 for yes, 2 for no. Obviously, I'm actually dressing up twice. And if you can't tell, I dyed my hair. I really committed to the bit this time. I dressing up today, and I'm dressing up as Kim Possible, another ginger. Everyone's doing dressing up. I love it. Keep the commitment. Love this. And also, someone was not ready for my ghost. At least I scared somebody today. That was the goal. So yes, okay, brilliant. I love that everyone's dressing up. So I want to lead us into our first guest, which is going to be the manager persona. So reminder, what we're doing today is talking to these people to learn about what they do, what their goals are, and how FinOps people can best interact with them. So we're just going to bring on Catherine. Which, hi, Catherine.
Hi.
Welcome to the show. First time.
I know. I can't believe it.
She's made
I'm
it.
so happy to be here.
And you are Spider Girl. Not Spider Girl. What are you? You're Squirrel
Well,
Girl.
I am Squirrel Girl, which we didn't know existed or was a thing. At least I didn't until 15 minutes ago. So I'm curious if anybody else did.
So for those who don't know you, do you want to just quickly introduce yourself for us?
Yeah. And so I'm sorry I haven't come on before, but my name's Catherine Graham, and I'm one of the optics managers here at AWS.
Awesome. And already put in the chat.
Already some fans in the audience for Catherine.
I told them to write that. You know what I mean?
Okay, go ahead. Savanna, you can kick it off with this one.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Catherine, we know you're a manager on optics. Can you talk a little bit about just kind of how you as a manager, if you were working in one of these organizations that we're working with, would think about kind of cost optimization, cost strategy, and what your day-to-day would look like with regards to all that?
Yeah, when I'm thinking about this question, I'm going to more answer around like what I would track or measure.
Perfect.
And I have a two-part answer, and I think they're wildly different, but I would track and measure them both. So the first one, I would take a look at where our highest percentage of spend is, and I would optimize those products or services. And from my experience with customers, typically the highest percentage of spend is in compute and or storage. So I would work on building KPIs, playbooks, best practices, things of that nature that would help them optimize. But one thing I want to point out before I jump into number two is that when I say optimize, I don't just mean saving on costs. I've learned a lot in the years that I've pivoted over to FinOps, and especially in the last 2 years, I've been seeing the narrative around optimization grow and evolve. So when I say optimize, I of course mean saving on cost, but I also mean efficiency, modernization, right sizing, sustainability. So it would encompass that. So that would be number one.
Yeah.
And then,
I love the. Oh, go on. I was just saying.
no,
I
please.
think Spider-Man has been pulled away to fight some crime. Hopefully, we'll be back momentarily. When they come back on. But yeah, I think just touching on that, I love the idea of you're already thinking about the business. Like the manager's job is to think about the business and the growth of the business. And so pulling in those like larger kind of KPIs or tracking for optimization is really important.
And honestly, Steph, like the second one I've learned from optics, like watching the people and the ICs and the leaders. And so number two would be, how does my team scale, impact, and knowledge? And so like, what do I mean by this exactly? So not only from my decades of experience in sales, but I've also seen this in the last 2 to 3 years with optics is we'll go and visit a customer and there'll be a team within that customer that does something really well. And that something could be modernizing compute, adopting Graviton, you name it, it doesn't matter. But that knowledge and that success is often siloed. And so I think there's an opportunity to hold our teams accountable, to break outside of our team, to break outside of our org. And I know at AWS, we talk about that, as you want to grow your career, as you want to get promoted, there is an expectation that you do that. And if you don't, you'll hit a stalemate. And what I've seen when people do this, it of course benefits the company, but almost more importantly, it benefits the individual. So I would work on focusing on highest percentage of spend and tackling it from that perspective, and then scaling impact and knowledge.
I love that, the idea of pushing it out. And this will lead into some of the conversations we have when it comes to our other FinOps more technical roles of like, the thing that I always say is make it work for you and then make it work for everyone. So if you're going to implement something like an optimization, how do you encourage everybody else to do it? And I know when we bring Haritha on, she's going to talk a little bit about maybe infrastructure as code and some elements of that. Right. I think my Spidey senses are tingling. And she's back.
Spider-Man's power went out, so we're doing our best over here.
Almost like a Monday,
Yeah.
You missed my incredible answer, Spider-Man.
Can't wait to watch it back on the replay.
Because everyone, reminder, go check out all of our past videos on YouTube, all available. I got over 180 videos on there. And don't forget to like and subscribe the video you're watching. Ever the professional. Savanna, I don't know if you want to jump in and ask the next question. So we're just talking about how Catherine would kind of manage her team and scale and focus on optimization. Anything else you want to ask next?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess through the day to day and like when you're working with your teams, how would you work to make sure that they were kind of thinking about this stuff and infusing it and kind of caring about the KPIs? I know that's kind of harsh language, but some of the things that we work on a lot within optics and working with these customers is like making sure that that cost is front and center, and that people are aware and engaged with it.
I mean, I'm going to probably use a little bit of what you just said. So I'm going to give another two-part answer. That's going to be the theme for me today,
Amazing.
I think. But, you know, Savannah, we've talked about this a lot. And I think, and honestly, when I joined optics in 2022, I could hear Alex in my head being like, visibility is everything. It's so important. And so, Savannah, you just touched on it. First, it'd be visibility. So when I think about visibility, if the teams can't see what they're doing and the decisions that they're making and how it's impacting the bottom line in the organization, then how can you expect them to care? So, like, first and foremost, that has to be transparent. And that might seem so obvious, but believe it or not, that's not how a lot of customers and companies do it. So, that's the first thing I would do. And then the second thing I've seen is I wouldn't let the FinOps team have the reputation of being the FinOps police. You know, I've heard
Ooh.
about, yeah, like I've had companies where they put teams on blast or they call them out for doing XYZ bad. And this is kind of like negative relationship. So what I would say there is, you know, you want to try to rebrand. You want to be the FinOps advocators, educators, enablers, roadblock removers, budget map, whatever, you know, and you really want to use that power to help the teams do more, better, stronger, more sustainable, more efficient. And then one more thing I want to add to that before I stop rambling is I think that can be hard to do. And I think the way to get support is to have multiple executives aligned and supporting, not just the CFO or COO, but I'm talking multiple who are shouting it from the rooftops and celebrating in a positive way.
Yeah. I think another big thing with that too is that people who are on the FinOps team and kind of in that space themselves can think about doing is coming with something to like offer to the teams that they work with, rather than saying, hey, you need to do X, Y, and Z and adding more work to their plate. Even if you talk about it in a way that's a little bit more positive and say, hey, I found a way that can help you guys save money and save budget and get back on track with your budget and innovate more and invest more next year, something like that.
You know what?
Just the language helps so much.
Yes. And I'm going to show my sales background. It's how you spin it. It's how you sell it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Be a collaborator.
Absolutely.
I love that. And out of curiosity, you were mentioning FinOps teams. I'm going to say, who is in a FinOps team on this call right now, on this Twitch show? One for yes, two for no. Be interesting to see what the audience is. But yeah, I love that. Especially, you're right, putting people on blast. I feel like the FinOps team is labeled the bad guy. There's a guy I know who works at a customer, and he's labeled the Grinch of FinOps or something like that. And so, but he loves it. Like, he loves it. He's the bad guy, but he's like taken on that persona. But it's been like really successful. And it depends what your kind of customer culture is.
Bad guy with a big heart, right?
Yeah,
Isn't it
that's
like 3
it.
times big? Yeah.
Every time you spin down an idle instance, my heart goes a size.
Oh, we're getting into
But,
prizes for our Halloween episode, our Christmas episode. I love that. Grinch theme. I love Target Practice is saying embrace the FinOps side. I love it. And then someone saying there is a Christmas show. Yes, there will be a Christmas show. We're going to do a Christmas quiz this year. So make sure you sign up to the YouTube channel and subscribe to the Twitch channel so that you can see those things. All right, last minute. Anything else, Catherine, you want to say from your manager point of view?
One thing I will say is that, like, when you're thinking about how to make a successful FinOps team, there's no silver bullet to how you can, you know, build the team, integrate the team. So just keep in mind, this is not an easy, short journey. There's no one and done. And also be adaptable, be flexible. The way we optimize today is going to be different than how we optimize 1 year, 3 year, 5 years, 10 years from now. So that's all I got.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Squirrel Girl. She's going to fly away now. All right.
Thanks, y'all.
Next, we're going to bring up Haritha from the developer side. Back in a sec. Hi.
Steph, these transitions are getting me. It's almost as scary as when my power went out.
someone's put in the chat earlier, I don't know if I can find it now, which was the electric villain in Spider-Man City. Oh, that was it. I replied Doc Ock. No, I didn't mean that. I meant whatever he's got. Chat, what's he called? The guy who's the electricity guy that's in the bad Spider-Man Amazing Spider-Man 2. But anyways, we're on to more DC focus with our Wonder Woman character, which I love the commitment. I love the headband. Oh, God.
Thank you.
Very cool.
Only for
Haritha, welcome
you.
to the yeah. Welcome to the show. First time having you here. Do you want to quickly introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah. Hi, guys. I'm Haritha. I am a FinOps commercial architect on the optics team, serving some of the largest AWS customers.
Amazing. And you're going to be taking on our developer persona for this section. And so I'm going to kick off with, we always love talking about and highlighting tools on this show. So from your developer point of view, what kind of tools and resources do you need to do your job? And what ways are you deploying infrastructure and then managing your infrastructure as time goes on?
Yeah. So from a developer perspective, I think my main goal is usually to sort of develop new features at a really rapid pace, and also sort of make sure that my application scales rapidly. But along with that, I'm also working to make sure that my application is running and I'm able to keep the business running as usual. So in order to sort of do that in a more consistent and effective manner, one of the tools that I really depend on is actually CloudFormation, because it gives me infrastructure as a code template that allows me to quickly provision AWS resources. So I'm not thinking about what I need to provision every single time I'm trying to launch a new feature or a new workload. So it's a great way for me to effectively do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Steph actually mentioned this a couple episodes ago, but I feel like a lot of those things that you just mentioned in terms of like sensible defaults are kind of a way to automate kind of good cost behavior. Can you talk a little bit about kind of what you've seen there or what's been successful for folks?
Yeah, so when it comes to sort of templatizing your infrastructure as a code, you can also sort of integrate in guardrails. So that allows you to sort of provision the right resources. So if overarching goal to migrate to Graviton-based instances, EC2 instances, you can integrate that into your template so that more teams are launching resources against that. So it's a great way to sort of make it very consistent across all the different teams that are involved.
Yeah, I love pushing that as well. It's people hear me talk about it. I put it on slides a lot, especially simple stuff like we talk about CloudWatch. Everyone knows I love talking about CloudWatch when it comes to everyone's like, I know, stop talking about CloudWatch. This was the year of the CloudWatch. But when you deploy a resource that requires CloudWatch login group, Amazon will make it for you because you've created it. You need to put the log somewhere. We'll make it, and we'll make it never expire your data because we don't want to delete your data. And if you make the CloudWatch log group yourself and you set your own retention policy, then it will delete it in the right time frame, so you can manage it and change it. And you could also choose things like in infrequent access tier for the log group and things like that. You can make decisions on this. You can set GP3 to be the volume type. You can set Graviton to be the managed services type. There are things that you can implement at the module level through things like Terraform, and it will definitely help. Before we go on to the next one, I have to put these. Some people are loving this. You need to leverage the lasso of truth to make sure your developers give realistic timelines. That is amazing. Well done, Rocking Horse winner. Well done. And so Cloud Asher says, and Spidey sense alerts for cost anomaly detection. These are brilliant. Keep this coming. Oh, it was Electro, FYI. Thank you, Cloud, without strife. But yeah, so definitely love using infrastructure as code. Are there any other ones you want to shout out or ways that you manage your infrastructure?
I think you definitely already did a shout out for CloudWatch. Great tool because it gives me utilization metrics as well. So from not just a cost optimization perspective, I'm always thinking about performance optimization of my resources as well. So getting those utilization metrics helps me to right size my instances correctly, select the provision, the right types of volumes, EBS volumes. So it's a great tool to also do anomaly detection. So it's heavily dependent on CloudWatch to just keep the lights on and making sure the application is running the way I want it to run. And then overall, like in order to just sort of develop my tools, I have the AWS services that I depend heavily on, like S3, Lambda, EC2, EBS volumes, relational databases like Aurora, MySQL. But at the end of the day, if I wanted to sort of get insight into any type of cost savings or actions to improve performance and reduce cost for some of the resources that I own or workloads that I own, I recently discovered Cost Optimization Hub, which is a great tool to gain insights, really actionable insights into things that I can do to reduce cost, but also improve performance of my resources that are provisioned and running. So, if I wanted to see any recommendations on EC2 instances that needed to be right-sized, Cost Optimization Hub does a great job of, one, identifying the dollar savings, potential savings that I could see, but it also gives me an idea of the effort involved, because as you can tell, there's probably a lot on my plate when it comes to this, highly scalable application development environment that I live in. So having the ability to have a tool that gives me this prioritized list helps me make my decisions a lot faster as well.
Yeah.
I love that drop down in Cost Optimization Hub. I feel like it's so developer friendly, because you can toggle between does it need to stop? Does it need a downtime? How much effort is involved? And really sort the recommendations. And you kind of got the whole buffet there. It's great.
Great tool.
Yeah, for sure. Which is a good lead on to one thing I always want to know when it comes to developers' point of view is how you prioritize tasks when you're doing these buildings. Because obviously you have lots of different demands coming in from all these different managers, stakeholders. How do you often try and prioritize tasks?
Really just whatever my boss tells me. I'm just kidding.
Whatever Catherine's yelling down.
Yeah, whatever Catherine wants. No, so I think from a prioritization perspective, a couple of things kind of come into play. Making sure that the end user is not experiencing any types of issues is sort of top priority. So anytime there's some firefighting that needs to happen, so really Wonder Woman needs to come down and take care of business, those are the types of tasks that take high priority so that the customer themselves are not having any type of bad experiences with the application, tend to bubble up to the top first. But given the way we are, where we're trying to scale an application and grow it at a very rapid pace, any new features that we're developing that improve the customer's experience are going to get prioritized next. So really, we're trying to either make sure the lights are on or trying to develop the application in a rapid pace. But then after that, we start to sort of look through and prioritize things that could help improve performance, sort of clean up any type of legacy code that we may have in the environments. So that's when we start to sort of look at everything else and start to sort of prioritize. And usually that might not be something that we prioritize for every release cycle, just depending on what's the demand looks like from the product manager or the engineering manager for that release cycle. But it's something that we do tend to prioritize third.
Brilliant. Okay, and then we have one more minute-ish. Just love to talk about visibility. So when you're getting visibility in your data, what do you focus on? What do you use? Things like that.
Yeah, so from an engineering perspective, I think cost visibility is very, very limited. Because when I look at Cost Optimization Hub, I'm looking at savings, but I may not know how much I'm spending, right? So having the ability to understand how much am I spending on some of the resources that I'm deploying? What is the revenue for the infrastructure costs that we have? Understanding those types of metrics can really help, because it kind of gives you motivation to go in and optimize. And from an engineering perspective, I always love a good challenge, right? So if you're telling me, hey, we have the opportunity to reduce costs by 5% for some of the workloads that you have to give me some data to make sure that I see how that's sort of formalized. And then it would give me the motivation to go in and prioritize that task, because it could mean reinvestment back into some more new resources for a new workload within the application as well. So really having good cost visibility, and if I'm part of a FinOps team, having that having good understanding of what are the key metrics or KPIs that the team is measuring overall is going to sort of help me prioritize any types of cost optimization or performance optimization tasks.
Yeah, I love that. Kind of comes full circle. You look at the visibility, you can then use it to prioritize your tasks, and then improve and optimize using infrastructure as code and your cost optimization hub. Nice and simple. Perfect. Thank you, Haritha. Thank you for joining us. And thank you for dressing up. Again, everybody, thank you for dressing up as we go through. You'll see everyone is committed to today. Savannah's original idea was like, no one else dress up. And I was like, no, give the people an opportunity to dress up.
Business casual talking about us.
Yeah.
That's funny though.
And someone has even said, I think I tuned into the wrong channel. No, if you're here for FinOps and cost optimization, you are in the right place. So keep sticking around, and we will be talking to other members of a Dream FinOps team and how we engage with other roles. Which brings us to, thank you so much, Haritha. We're going to move on to our exec, who is kind of our exec in our world, which is Adam. So let's bring him on. Hello, the man of steel joins us.
got the cape and everything somewhere over here. So
I love how it's like attached, and you're like, it's there, I promise.
it's there. Yeah.
Under the Adam, welcome to the show, Adam. First time for you as well.
Hey,
Do you want to introduce yourself to everybody?
Yeah, thank you so much. So I'm Adam Raymer. I have the privilege of leading our customer acceleration team and getting an opportunity to work with our customers, particularly some CIOs and CTOs, on their transformation, so helping them get unstuck and accelerate what they're doing. I was a longtime customer before I joined AWS. So I think I was a customer of Alex's team as well, sort of early on, which is awesome.
Yeah. One of my favorite facts about Adam is he has Amazon shoes. Is that right?
I do. I have a couple pairs, actually.
I'm just jealous, obviously. The Swag Queen, I want some shoes. Anybody wants to give me shoes?
How do you keep accumulating more of them?
It's one of those. It was a customer for so long. It was there were years of swag built up. It's my wife would prefer I not keep that in the house anymore, but it's no way of getting rid of it.
That's the dream. But Rocky always said that's a superpower, collecting all the swag. The elite go. But yeah, Adam's taking on our exec role today to talk a little bit about the high level point of view when it comes to FinOps and how to engage. Savanna, do you want to kick this section off?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think, as Steph mentioned at the outset, the executive role is super important. Can you just talk us through, kind of from your perspective, what is the most important way for an executive to engage with kind of the FinOps cost optimization landscape that we play in?
Yeah, I mean, I think the relationship, especially as I see it, is super important, right? If you're not efficient and the economics aren't there, particularly for the products that you're selling in a business, it's not going to work. And so it's not about being cheap. It's not about being lowest cost. It's about what Catherine was mentioning early on about that efficiency part of the story and being able to sort of do the right thing to help grow and scale either the products that you're selling or the business that you're operating in, and sort of being able to move through like that. And so that's to me, one of the biggest things for those teams as far as how they're engaging with executive groups.
Yeah, there's so many people in play that you have to kind of keep that high level concept and make sure everybody's happy. That's my job. As much as possible. Sorry, go Savannah.
Sorry, you turned me up, Steph. Within the organization, how have you seen kind of executives, both in your own time as an exec and kind of as coaching these executives from the AWS side, what have you seen be most effective in the way that they kind of integrate into these groups and encourage these activities? I know we think of like fin hacks and kind of executive sponsored events a lot. So I guess beyond that, can you give us like a tactical example and like a long-term example as well?
So I definitely think the top-down sponsorship is super important. That's one of the biggest drivers for success. It starts with that executive team and sort of making sure that they are both aware and sort of can see what's going on in this space, but also helping foster that conscious culture, right? It's making teams aware, and sort of what Haritha was mentioning earlier. You want to know, like, if you're saving something, is that helping the business and the bottom line and those other bits? The one thing I'd say from sort of a practical example, I would never underestimate an executive team's competitiveness. Make things aware to teams, sort of challenge them to be slightly better than their peer groups. Being that competitive story between those teams will very quickly help sort of drive towards goals. I've always been amazed with sort of very quick and easy sort of things to gamify it to some degree, really help those teams not only sort of make it fun, but also help reach the goals that you're going after pretty quickly. So that sort of cultural bit is you're driving in. If you make it fun and enjoyable for those groups and then make it a little bit competitive, it's really interesting how fast people will dive in and sort of embrace this.
Totally. I think we talk about gamification a lot, but definitely never underestimate the power of like some sort of reward or some sort of competition, even if it's something super simple like collecting stickers. Like I've seen a customer absolutely clean up by giving folks like little stickers. And even internally, like we all love the little phone tool awards that Amazon has. So definitely think out of the box there.
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows I'm super competitive, and that reminds me, just to announce, Savanna won our draft. I forgot to mention that last week. Well done, Savanna. Round of applause. And we did see we did a FinOps draft, and me, Alex, and Savanna, and she won. Me in second, Alex in third. So well done. Shows that if Savanna wants to, she could always beat me. It's the challenge. That's it. Just a call out for some comments. Thanks everybody in the chat. Feel free to ask us any questions and challenges and things you're doing in FinOps. Love the costumes. Love the superheroes collectively, and just go Savanna because she won. Well done. But yes, gamification 100%. And I was asked this recently at Meetup about whether you should have kind of gamification in terms of rewarding the people doing well or telling off the people not doing well. So kind of like it's not necessarily gamification, but kind of challenging each other to show who's the worst versus it is if you're showing who's the worst versus who's the best. Adam, what would you normally go for? Kind of the people who are doing the best or the worst?
I always like the best one, but it's sort of that show in that scenario. And so if you put a leaderboard up, if say you're going after efficiency and break it out by leader within a business, if you're not on top and you're very competitive in that group, you'll start asking, hey, why is my team not there? What are we doing differently? You can go into the blame and shame one. I've seen it work well, but it's more fun if you're doing it on the positive spin, in my view.
100%. And we actually had a question before Savanna to our next one, which is, what is the executive sponsor's kryptonite?
Oh, that's a great
chat. Yeah, what's your kryptonite?
Oh man, that's a tricky one. I think when we're chasing savings for savings sake or tech for tech's sake in the mix there, that's probably in the theme here one of the biggest, right? If you're going after this without necessarily tying it to the business goal that you're really working through, you may be doing it for the wrong reasons, and that can be going off track or going in the wrong direction. That would probably be the big one, sort of sticking with the theme. It's a great question.
Absolutely. I feel like it's a lot harder to get that kind of management level buy-in in that scenario too, when you don't have like a very solid business reason that people can relate to, right? If you're just saying savings, we need to save money, that's a lot less engaging than, hey, we need to save money so that we can kind of innovate on this product or reinvest or invest more back into the business or meet XYZ goal, right?
Yeah, so. For sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Diego, what's that?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna ask, as kind of the FinOps persona, if I'm thinking about like a new FinOps person sitting in this org for the first time, what would I need to do to get your support, or how do I get on your good side and get your buy-in as quickly as possible?
I mean, I think there's probably a couple things, right? So in any sort of program like this, having clear goals and objectives is super important. It doesn't have to be, world changing on day one, but what am I trying to solve for? What am I trying to go and help with? And as you're setting the programs, how are we going to measure that success as we go? I'd also make sure that it is cross-functional. So don't make it about one team. Don't make it, I think we heard Catherine mentioned the FinOps police earlier, like don't make it a finance-driven activity or an IT-driven activity. It's about the business as a whole. And so the more teams you can pull into that activity, the quicker you can pick up exec sponsorship for a lot of that activity. And then it's sort of making sure that you're being conscious about the right level of investment for tooling and other things that you're bringing forward. I think those are the sort of three big ones that I'd look for.
Awesome. I guess from a KPI perspective, I know reporting and that data-driven approach is a huge thing. Are there any kind of top KPIs that you yourself look for immediately or think about as kind of the right-hand KPI in these scenarios?
Yeah, I mean, I look for a lot of teams. I see that they were some of the most successful are on that, like the unit economics for the products that they're delivering to their customers. So it is literally about how much of this are we contributing? Like what's the cost for what I'm running overall? So the software, the infrastructure, all of the things that are baking into that. And then how are we making sure that that's right? Right. It's not necessarily, again, about being the cheapest, but it's about being the right thing for what we're delivering and how. And that part of it, sort of focusing in on it from that point of view, seems to be really successful for teams to do this well.
Amazing. Okay. Thank you so much for giving us Yeah, thank you for coming and dressing up, especially with your cape and all. And great questions, everyone. Keep them coming. And it is always interesting to hear because I feel like, especially a lot of those people, sometimes are kind of mid-level when it comes to businesses, and they maybe don't get FaceTime with the exec. So it's always good to kind of figure out what the goals are and go out and reach out to people. Okay, brilliant. From execs, we're going to go back to technical, and we're going to go to architecture and bring on Andy.
I've been spending the whole day in the gym to get my muscles up.
It shows. You're doing great.
I'm going to take the mask off because I'm cooking. I don't know how Savanna's doing it.
Yeah, that was and just for context, Andy originally, when I said this is like, I don't want to dress up, he's now committed to the full thing. He now owns a whole costume. I love it.
It's the only costume I own now.
Oh god, so worth it for these amazing Alex said, I cannot believe you got Andy to dress up.
I fought a lot not to get dressed up, but everyone else was, so I had to take part.
I like
him when he's angry.
Yeah.
I like how you fought a lot and then kind of committed like super hard.
Yeah. It's like no way, and then you went for it. But Andy is a Hulk man. Love it, Hulkmania, amazing. Getting ready for Hulk films next year. Okay, so Andy is playing the role of our architect, and he used to do a lot of this technical stuff before he worked at AWS. So we're looking at an architecture point of view, so more of like a solution architect role. So Andy, when you were planning out your architecture, how did you go about that process, and did you have cost in mind, or was it something that you didn't really care about at the time?
Really, my main job was to make sure our application, like if they needed the capacity, it was there when they needed it. So making sure the compute was available, or the database is available, the storage available, and also it was reliable. So if they submitted a job, it ran and completed and got them the results. Cost was always like the afterthought, where it was like the number one priority was, are we using the right EC2 instances? Are we using the right S3 storage? And so when I was trying to design what I was doing, really every time AWS did an announcement for a brand new EC2 instance, I was right into the specs. I was looking at what's the CPU, what's the speed of the CPU, to try and work out how much more performant it will be, like how much memory does it come. I then work out, does that fit into what my application needs based on like the metrics and utilization we're getting? And once I worked out it was going to be enough and it would be beneficial to make our application run faster, then I would worry about the cost of like, okay, this is going to work. It's going to make things faster, but what is going to be the penalty?
Oh, interesting. I love that kind of getting into the weeds. It's often, and from our point of view, I don't know, Sana, you think this, when we're looking at EC2s, we don't necessarily go that deep. We often look at what the price is, and we look at utilization metrics, but maybe not as deep in that kind of a constant.
I would say when we're... Oh, go ahead, Andy.
We used to have like a job. It's basically added up every number up to, I think it was up to 10 million. And we ran that on every single EC2 host to see how long it ran. And we used that as our benchmark to work out, okay, this EC2 host, this is how much it's going to take. Versus like if we did the same when we were running on Lambda and on containers. And it gave us that like benchmark so we can compare against all the different instances. And like, okay, this takes 3 seconds to run. This one takes 2.5 seconds. Let's use that because it will be faster.
Oh, wow. That's cool. Very simple but effective test. And I'm going to quickly plug before I hand back to Savanna. Try it on your Graviton instances, and hopefully you'll see a much faster speed of performance. But go on, Savanna. What were you going to say?
Yeah, I would say I think we're getting a little bit better about exposing all of the pieces of that in cost tooling in recent years. Like if I think back to like Andy, when you and I first started here, what the pricing calculator looked like then versus what it looks like now. Like everything has vCPUs listed. It has all the specs kind of listed out. You can configure based on what you need and it'll recommend instances. So I think that's definitely like something that we are moving closer to within our tooling to kind of merge and marry the two a little bit more. But absolutely, architecture is first and foremost about making sure that the product works. So
I had such a big spreadsheet. It was like thousands of rows of like every instance type possibly available and all the configurations with all their performance metrics and the cost. And then there's the spot price and then like the RI and savings plan price. And it was just such a big spreadsheet. And I'm sort of envious for those who can go to the pricing calculator now and just do it all there.
right.
It's like,
Yeah.
my job would have been so much easier back then.
Back in my day,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And we printed off the curve.
Yeah.
Shut Alex.
Yeah.
But which is a good to kind of dive into that when you're kind of making these decisions. Did you have to deal with many policies, SCP tag policies? Did you have to deal with that when you were building out infrastructure?
Yeah, I think the thing I learned very quickly into this role is you can't trust the developers. They which in a nice way, you can trust them a lot, but because they know what they're doing, but infrastructure is not their speciality. So often we will get them and they'll be spinning up still the M1 instances. And we're like, why are you spinning up that? And so we started to do a lot of policies to make sure they're provisioning what we want them to provision versus what they sort of might think or what they've always provisioned in the past. I know Haritha was mentioning earlier about infrastructure as code, and one of the downsides of infrastructure code, in my perspective, is sometimes people don't go and update it. They forget, oh yes, this is my template, this is what we use, but then forget. And so the benefit of doing SCP policies, like the service control policies, is that we could put the restrictions in, and then they won't be able to provision and go ahead with that.
Yeah. Okay. So when you were mentioning you're kind of doing cost per performance, Mike, I wanted to ask about this because I actually had a conversation with a customer yesterday about this, about shared accounts or shared resources. Did you build a lot, or let me reword this. When it comes to building infrastructure, sometimes it makes sense to do something that's shared, and sometimes it makes sense to do something that is siloed accounts. How do you weigh up the decision of when to do that? Maybe because I'm thinking from a FinOps person watching this, in my head, I'm always just use account structure, everything in one account. It's so much easier for chargeback, but that's not always the easiest thing for the business. So what could be some reasons people did shared resource accounts?
Sometimes you don't actually have a choice. In our area, we used an application for managing the way the actual business applications interact with our infrastructure. And they're management hosts. And we're not going to spin up a management host for every single business unit running on it. And it made sense for us to have just one, because then we'd have 200 times, and it would be the complexity within the environment. So in that situation, we didn't have a choice. In other situations, it's just one, ease of access. There's some of those possibilities, but we did try and segregate everything because it made my chargeback process so much easier when I could segregate stuff.
Yeah.
And so it was a balance.
Yeah, it does. It does depend, and that kind of diving into that in FinOps people not getting on their high horse about it. This customer was like, we know we've done it wrong, but everything's interconnected now and we can't unscramble it. It's a big mess, but it's working and we don't want to change it. And it's going to take us some years to do it. But how do we solve that after? And that's when we talk about using tagging in the correct way and using things like SCAD that we did an episode on a couple of weeks ago about tagging your containers and being able to drill down to that level and making decisions on it. And someone's put in the chat, I hate to say it, but very true. I keep getting messages to change info based on random person posting something completely irrelevant. But I think that can happen. And I think what that does open up is someone's telling you to do that is opening up a dialogue, whether you are a technical person who gets these kind of messages. And the main reason is why, asking those whys, the 5 whys is a classic thing people do, and diving in from both perspectives and having a relatable conversation that there might be a business need of why you keep a certain resource, a certain way. And another question, doesn't Cur 2.0 now support usage by a linked account from a payer account? I
do you
think
mean
so.
Account names, maybe?
Account names, yes, that
Yeah.
is in there. But yes, but last minute and a half, Andy, any other kind of things you want to share from your perspective as when you're building out architecture, what FinOps people should know?
So I did care about cost. My plan was to focus on the infrastructure, but I did care about cost. And the way we actually did this was with that performance lens as well. So we brought in all the logs from our application of when the job was being submitted, how long it was doing. And we did all the cost allocation based on that. So how much does it actually cost us to run that vCPU? How much does it actually cost us to run that job? Because that's what then we could report back to the business, oh, your application now runs 20% faster and is 10% cheaper. And that's all our focus. It wasn't the top level number, because if the business was growing, our costs would be growing. It was more, are we running more efficiency and having the right KPIs? But the critical thing was bringing in those application logs and integrating them together so you can see them and relate them.
Yeah.
Going back to that unit cost, Adam talked about a little bit too.
Yeah.
So.
Brilliant. And just a reminder, we've talked about a lot of different things today. If you have any follow-up questions, please email us at costoptimization@amazon.com. Or if you have a feature request, something you want to raise, I had that given to me today. Someone wants to raise a feature request. Happy to do it on behalf of you as a customer. Thank you so much, Andy, or the Hulk, for joining us for this. Thank you for committing. And we're going to lead us on from talking about cost, someone who does really care about cost, and that is our finance guy, Jeff. On to the next one. It's Kat.
Hey, everybody.
I just said before, I love Jeff's hair just poking out the top. Extra level. I'm jealous you have that top now. I've got an Iron Man version similar, and I love it. So it's very,
It'll be
very
perfect
cool.
for the gym after.
Yes, exactly. Showing off. I'm actually going from here to my gym for a Halloween max out, dressed as Wanda. We're all dressing up, so I was like, one outfit, two events to wear it at.
Amazing.
But Jeff, you've been on before, but do you want to remind everybody who you are?
Yeah, Jeff Doreski. I'm a senior FinOps commercial architect here on the optics team, and I'm approaching this from the finance background. So it hurts to hear Andy saying that he didn't care about cost, because that's what I lived and breathed.
And a great comment already. Cap is here to shield organizations from runaway costs. Oh my God.
I can do this all day.
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's what I want. That is what I want. This is hey Cap, I love it. So getting into our last but not least finance role, the person that I feel like FinOps people either are a lot of the time or kind of can possibly clash heads with. I always encourage people to create a relationship with finance people in their organizations and really nurture that relationship, especially when it comes to the cloud. But Savanna, do you want to take away our last section?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to hopefully bring up something that is not too sensitive given what folks are working on at this time of the year, but we are approaching the end of 2024. So I know a lot of my customers are starting to think about what 2025 is going to look like. So from a finance perspective, I know, Jeff, you do a ton with forecasting yourself. Can you talk us through a little bit about why that's so important in a finance role and kind of what pieces of data are going to be the best to help you forecast effectively?
All of the guests that we've had today have talked about the work that they're doing, the decisions that they're making, on their infrastructure, the cloud, everything from optimization, the tools they're using. And that's all great data, but it needs to get back to the team that is ultimately putting numbers in your P&L, in your general ledger, to roll up the forecast and the budget. So that connection is just so important. You don't want finance or someone just taking what you did last year and growing it 3%, 5%, whatever it happens to be. If there are a number of initiatives that are going on that you want to make sure are included in your budget.
Got it. So
we're like non-finance people.
So many words now. So you mentioned the general ledger. Can you talk a little bit about, I guess, what that means to you as a finance person, and also the cost journey from someone on the development side spinning up an AWS instance and building something on the cloud to kind of down the pipeline, your general ledger in the finance world?
So your general ledger is going to be your record of all of your costs. So your professional services costs, salaries and benefits, travel. Then you're going to have some line item for your cloud costs as well. And that's what finance is reporting on. So on their monthly basis, they're doing their actuals versus prior month variance versus the budget variance as well. And so you have the various tools that you're using to make sure that the costs that you're looking at in your system of record, Cloud Health, or a third-party tool, Cost Explorer, the QuickSight dashboards, then you're making sure that those are matching to the general ledger. So when finance says you spent X number of dollars, it makes sense from what you on a developer side is seeing as well.
And how have you seen FinOps teams kind of bridge the gap between the understanding of what's in Cost Explorer and what's actually happening from the dev side to that kind of more financial focus on the finance side? Because I feel like that's something we work with a lot. And often in FinOps teams, you've kind of got half of the puzzle. So if you have a finance background, you maybe have to learn a little bit about cloud and vice versa. But what's been effective there that you've seen?
Absolutely. Understanding the perspective of both sides. So finance really leaning in on understanding cloud just at a more technical lever, so they can ask the right questions to the tech teams that they're working with. And on the same side, the tech teams understanding the financial implications and then understanding the financial processes of why it's important that they are letting the finance team know we're going to purchase a savings plan and it's going to drop our cost by 10% starting next month. The decisions that they making it into the finance side of the house.
Awesome. Yeah, you mentioned variance reporting kind of briefly, and obviously the savings plans can make a pretty big difference month over month. Can you talk a little bit about what that would look like in an ideal state and how folks on either the dev side or the FinOps side can kind of make you more comfortable and make your life easier during that process?
Yeah, very common question or very common variance analysis. You look at costs this month versus prior month, and you do some sort of waterfall of all the different puts and takes of how you got from last month to this month. So understanding what those key drivers from the change. It may be more days in month. If you're comparing March to February and you have 3 extra days, so right away you're going to have 3 more days of cost. But then if you've purchased a savings plan, then that's going to change your cost trajectory. And finance needs to understand what those drivers of changing the cost trajectory to build out their variance report. So having a friend on the engineering, on the dev side, that's going to be able to help you out with that commentary is extremely important.
Absolutely. It's funny that you mentioned the days in a month thing, because I feel like every year in February, Optics probably collectively gets 10 to 20 questions of like, why does my S3 look super different this month? Or like, why does this look incredibly different? Because those gigabyte month services with the shorter timeline are a little bit different from 31-day month for sure.
And those nuances are important to capture, to have an understanding, so you don't have a business commentary of our storage is different this month and we're looking into it. You'd like to know that quick answer beforehand, because you have an understanding what the billing is and the implications of it.
Yeah, and we've got a quick question in the chat. How about amortization of SP prepayment, savings plan prepayment? Want to touch on how that can kind of be affected by the finance point of view?
Absolutely. So if you purchase a savings plan or reserved instance and you have a partial or upfront purchase option, when you look in Cost Explorer using an amortized view, it's going to take the purchase of that savings plan and amortize or spread it over the life of the savings plan. Companies can have different amortization policies that may not follow what is the hourly and the daily basis within Cost Explorer. So if a company just takes all prepayments and divides by 12, then days that do not have that exact amount, what's in Cost Explorer, may be a little bit different than what is booked in their general ledger. So again, having that understanding that there could be financial or accounting policies that will impact how the costs look in the general ledger. And what is that variance? Is it something you can easily explain when you're looking to Cost Explorer?
Amazing. Okay. I think that is a nice summary for all of our finance stuff. And we thank you so much, Jeff, for kind of giving us that point of view. My big advice, go and talk to your finance people. Make friends with them. Give them
Please do.
Yeah, make your reports match. My big thing is make your reports that you produce match the system they need to go into. Don't make anybody do pivot tables. No one has time for that. Okay. All right. I'm going to bring back on all of our amazing guests super quickly, just so you can say hi to everybody. Thank you so much, all of you, for assembling this amazing team. So great. Last quick thing is I want to know who is the best superhero on the call. Is it Adam the Hulk, Captain America, Squirrel Girl, or Haritha as Wonder Woman? I'm gonna say I think it's Andy because he was vote in the chat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then
this is a one time only.
Yeah. Thank you all for coming and doing that. Really appreciate everyone spending their time with us today. Hope you will have an amazing Halloween. Lastly, and I'll bring these guys down. And thanks to our amazing group, we have obviously Secret Richard. So Richard, do you want to share your slide for today? As always, we finish off the show with Secret Richard showing a summary of today's episode, which I haven't read before and I have to read out loud live, which is always fun. So let's bring that up. Okay, so Scarlet Witch. I'm not reading the first one. She is the most powerful. I don't care. I'm taking it down. Richard's fired.
Well, Steph, you haven't done your lift yet, so we don't know if you're the strongest Avenger.
I'm the most powerful. It doesn't matter. Squirrel Girl says, look for the largest nuts first. That's amazing. Utilize the right tool helps you become a wonder developer. Savings plan without a plan is Exec kryptonite. Don't hulk your smash your budget with bad planning and shield your general ledger from variance reporting. Apart from the first one, well done, Richard. Those are amazing. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. Today has been a super fun episode. As a reminder, we have here every Thursday. If you want to see more of these episodes, go on YouTube and check out the full subscription. And if you're watching on YouTube, any links or any comments can be found down below. That is all from us this week. We'll see you all next time. Bye.
Happy Halloween.